SpotlightMediaStudios.com. Welcome to Education Unfiltered. Here is Mary Stucco.
Hello, this is Mary Stucco with Education Unfiltered, where we talk all things higher ed. And today we are joined by Dr. Steve Robinson, who's the president of Lansing Community College. Welcome, Dr. Robinson. How are you today?
I'm great, Mary. I'm glad to be back. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so we're into fall semester at LCC. How are things going?
Great start to the semester. You know, so many more of our classes are online. We've been back for almost 3 weeks. And things are off to a great start. Our faculty and staff are doing amazing things, and it's so great to see students on campus.
Yes, I think so. I think everyone's kind of happy to have interaction with other people again. So
Correct.
It's a good feeling. So what changes has LCC made since like before COVID or over the last year?
Well, we made a lot of changes, but as regards COVID, we've been very consistent. We've had a people-first approach to the virus since the very beginning of the pandemic. Masks are required in all our locations right now. And we've prioritized the health and safety of our students, our faculty and staff. And that's been a good decision, a good strategy for us because we've, in large part, kept the virus at bay, kept our folks safe and secure. And we're off to a great start in the fall. We have a number of other things that don't have anything to do with COVID going. We're going to be taking a first read of our new strategic plan to the Board of Trustees. A lot of exciting things going on at LCC.
Exactly. And so let's talk a little bit about that. Lansing Community College is really an anchor institution in mid-Michigan.
Yes.
Why don't we talk about that
Yes.
and where you're at now, where you're looking to go down the road?
Well, I appreciate you using the term anchor institution because that's something I think is very central to the identity of LCC. As I told everybody at our fall kickoff, we actually have a place name as our first name. We're Lansing Community College. And our middle name, as corny as it sounds, is Community. So place is really important for us. The pandemic changed us. It changed us forever, but it didn't turn us into a completely virtual college, completely online institution. It's really important that we're Mid-Michigan's community college. So that anchor institution is a responsibility we take very seriously. We know that the recovery from this pandemic and the economic crisis that came with it is actually just starting. We've had even though our enrollment is slightly up from last fall, there's been a huge washout of students and families that don't have the bandwidth to continue with their higher education goals. And so that's what we're working on this fall and beyond, is to reconnect with those students and families who've gone off path from their goals.
So how do you think we go about reconnecting with people who have had to maybe shift gears a little?
So through a number of things. So we have been reconnecting. First of all, the word reconnect with the capital R is a statewide strategy called Michigan Reconnect that's specifically targeted at community college students. That's been wildly successful at LCC. It's part of why we're slightly up in enrollment.
Talk a little bit about that for people who aren't familiar with it.
Right. So as part of the American Rescue Plan and the state aspect of the strategy for recovering from COVID, the Whitmer administration crafted a couple of really important initiatives that are targeted at community colleges. One's called Futures for Frontliners, which is specifically targeted at individuals who worked through the pandemic in frontline roles. And Michigan Reconnect is an opportunity for students to come back to community college in a way that some of these rescue plan dollars help with tuition. So we've seen that have an impact on our enrollment. But I'm really focused on what I would say the lowercase r, not the brand name state administration strategy, but what we need to do as a college to fan out and be proactive about bringing students back.
Yes, absolutely. So how do you see students at LCCU? I mentioned with the Michigan Reconnect, there's a little bit of an increase in enrollment. Do you see that the student body has changed a little bit or shifted a little bit?
Yes. So to rewind the tape a little bit before the pandemic, we saw for 30 years a pattern of what we call countercyclical enrollment patterns, where if the economy was doing well, our enrollment would be low. If the economy was struggling and unemployment was high, our enrollment would be high. The pandemic broke all of that because what happened is this disruption, the public health disruption, the economic disruption, some of the unemployment program disruption really made it so families did not have the bandwidth to continue on with things like pursuing a certificate or associate degree. So most community colleges in the country have seen enrollment declines during COVID-19, and that's true of LCC. Now we're starting to level off a little bit, but what I'm talking about are thousands of students who, for whatever reason, their life has become incredibly complicated. They're the caregiver, maybe they're homeschooling their kids now, taking care of parents. They have not had the bandwidth to continue on with their studies. So one of the things that we've done at LCC is taken multiple approaches. So one approach focuses on debt. So we launched what's called a Fresh Start program at LCC, where we forgave about more than $3 million of LCC student debt, not private party student loans, but things, debts that students owed the college, and forgave those debts as a way of eliminating barriers for students. That cleared the way for about 3,800 LCC students to be able to enroll again.
Oh, that's wonderful. So obviously things have shifted. People are kind of coming from a different place right now as they're looking to go back to school. What kind of support can students expect when they re-enroll at LCC so that they can kind of get a good start and get get acclimated into the classroom better?
I'm glad you asked that. I'm going to tell kind of an anecdotal story. I landed at the college in the middle of the pandemic. It was not uncommon for me to be the only person in the administration building, right? Because our entire team was working remotely. I live on campus, so I'm already there. But as we were starting to come back face to face, students and their families would actually come to campus to try to reconnect with us, lowercase reconnect. And I always had to do that with a phone, like pull out a phone, or I can call somebody. We were able to be responsive, but I couldn't do what I wanted to do, which is grab them and walk them over to the STAR zone. So at LCC, we actually have a robust set of in-person support services. And for those kinds of inquiries that you're talking about, everybody starts at this place called the STAR Zone in the Gannon building. It's a one-stop shop with a kind of concierge counter where I can take students and do a warm handoff to the folks who can get them connected with where they want to go. Once folks are enrolled, we have academic success coaches. We've got a lot of support services, but getting that STAR Zone open, because the folks who work there are just incredible at connecting with students.
Absolutely. Now, I'm seeing that you're getting very involved in the community as well, just not beyond LCC's perimeters. And one of the things that you are doing is with Dapper Dads, benefiting Sparrow Hospital. So tell me about that. This is your first exposure to that, right?
It is. And I'll be frank, I'm a little out of my comfort zone. We're going down the runway and modeling clothes. But you mentioned being an anchor institution. It's important to me for the CEO, the president of Lansing Community College, to be a really active person in the community. It's one of the things that I love about a role like this. So Dapper Dads, as you know, is a fundraising initiative of Women Working Wonders at the Sparrow Foundation. It's just a great organization. And so Dapper Dads is this fashion show this week. And it's something that I've never been a fashion model. I don't aspire to be one, but
okay.
Yeah, but it's going to be a lot of fun. And some LCC students are going to be joining me on the runway. But I needed to get into Katzacek's and buy a bunch of suits anyway, so I went in there and bought a few suits, got all outfitted, and so I'm really excited about it. And hopefully we can raise some money for Women Working Wonders. That's kind of a finesse play for me because I'm the chief fundraiser for our foundation.
Yeah.
But it's something that I really wanted to do.
So what else have you been doing lately or heading towards where you're stepping outside your comfort zone a little bit to kind of represent LCC?
Well, the fashion thing is very outside of my comfort zone, but what I've been trying to do is find fun and interesting ways to have the college engage in the larger community. One thing we've done through the summer, we're doing it again tomorrow, is a short bike ride through Rio Town and Old Town. So we meet at the Granger Tower on campus. This was one of my colleagues' ideas. He's an avid cyclist. He saw that I ride my bike, and I rode my bike here to the studio.
Did.
And so what we do is a very short, slow, social bike ride that starts on campus. We, ride out to Morris Park, turn around, go back to Old Town. I buy everybody ice cream, and it takes about 90 minutes. It's safe, and it's something that you don't have to be an athlete to do this. It's a pretty leisurely, slow ride, and it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think that's really nice. So anybody's welcome to join you.
Absolutely.
If they feel like I want to take a bike ride around downtown Lansing, this is a good excuse to maybe do it.
It is, and if you're not comfortable cycling, we don't go on the roads with traffic because we have a direct connection to the Lansing River Trail, which is like one of my favorite things now. My wife purchased a bike, and we ride our bikes to dinner in Rio Town and Old Town and here in downtown. It's really cool to live in the city and be able to get around on a bicycle.
Yeah, I know. City of Lansing's really turning into something very special.
We really love being back, and we've been back for a year, and it's just really special.
Yeah, that's exciting. So, on your bucket list, what are some things that you're hoping to do down the road? Maybe that's not like for sure planned, but what are some of your thoughts and goals down the road?
Well, I have tons. The first formal kind of statement of the goals will be going to our Board of Trustees this fall. We've been working for the better part of a year developing a 3-year strategic plan. And it's using much of the same framework of our previous strategic plan, but we added an element of diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is part of our value system at LCC. DEI and our commitment to equity are huge at LCC. So getting that strategic plan reviewed and approved by the board will happen this fall. And we've got some great initiatives in there on student success, on community engagement. So that's the formal answer to your question. What I want to see us do as a college, though, is a lot of these things like Dapper Dads, like the Pedal with the Prez, like some of these other initiatives to just kind of cement that anchor institution identity of LCC in downtown. I've just been so rewarded by people come out of the woodwork to tell me great LCC stories. Mm-hmm. And that's what I do with my podcast. That's what I do with just about everything I do in town. So building on that community engagement is really important.
Yeah, I know. LCC, I think, is really, since I took classes when I was younger at LCC, it's just changed so much. And I just feel like, just going on campus, and I don't really think people realize we actually have a little campus, and it's quite beautiful and beautiful art. And I think it's really expanded beyond just a place where you just go to take a class. Right. It's a community.
Well, we talked about that last time I was on your show. I mean, I would take our downtown campus and put it against any college campus anywhere as a beautiful urban campus. We have a great diversity of architecture. You mentioned the public art. That whole mall area, off of Washington is just one of the nicest college campuses I've ever seen. We also have a beautiful facility at our West Campus, state-of-the-art aviation maintenance program out in Mason. We have a presence right next to Michigan State University at LCC East. So as far as infrastructure and campus goes, this is one of the finest community colleges you'd see in the country, and I'm really excited when people come to campus and haven't seen it for a while. I take them for a walk, and they get to see how wonderful it is.
Yeah. So we're well into fall semester right now, getting started. For anyone who's thinking that, I think maybe I want to go back to school. Right. When can they expect to be able to take a look at the courses offered for spring semester, which starts in January, not quite spring, but.
Right. Well, head over to lcc.edu right now. We're still building future terms out there, but everything you would need to get started, including phone numbers or ways to connect with folks online, or I'm delighted to say you can come right to campus and I'll walk you over to the Star Zone and connect you with a real live human being who will be excited to connect you with what you're looking to do. Because as you know, there's such a range of options at LCC, right from a couple of non-credit training opportunities all the way to great transfer programs like the one we just built with Michigan State called Envision Green, where you can get on a pathway to a bachelor's degree or work at our university center with some of our other higher ed partners for baccalaureate degrees. So lcc.edu is the front door. The Star Zone is where I can take you and connect you with a human. And there are a lot of opportunities to reconnect.
Yeah. And so what are some words of advice to you? Obviously, there's a very diverse student body coming in. We got people coming out of high school. We got people coming back after being away for a while. What are some words of wisdom to you who people are thinking, gosh, I'm thinking about it? What should they be thinking about, or what would you say to them?
So at the risk of sounding like a billboard, the words of wisdom I'd have are, you belong here. If you see our billboards in town, that's our current campaign at LCC. You belong here. And we mean that. You mentioned the diversity of our student body. We designed our college to be an equitable space where everyone has an opportunity to succeed. So we've got teams of folks on the faculty, in our staff, who are ready to work with students who are coming from a different place. It's one of the great strengths of community colleges in general, but specifically for LCC. So I would tell people, if you're thinking about whether you would come to LCC, you do belong here.
Absolutely. And finally, what would you say to somebody that is kind of concerned about financial and stuff? Where would they kind of start with the financial end of it?
Well, our folks at the Star Zone can connect you with the resources that you would need to answer those questions. It's a complicated question for many folks, but there are more resources now than ever before. So in addition to Pell Grants from the federal government, our folks in financial aid can connect students with resources that they might not otherwise know that they have, including great scholarships through our LCC Foundation. So they're folks ready to talk to prospective students about where those resources would come from. And as you know, in comparison to other higher education institutions, LCC is one of the most affordable colleges in the state. We're still one of the most affordable community colleges in the state. So affordability and the ability to pay for that education is something that we can really help students with.
Yeah. And, on a side note, you're one of the hippest presidents LCC's had.
Oh, that's
so
kind of
if you want to just bring a guitar downtown and find Dr. Robinson, he'll join you and play a light along, because you've seen him quite a bit on campus playing guitars and I think other instruments. I'm not quite sure why.
Yeah, I primarily play the banjo and the upright bass, but I play the guitar. We'll play music on my porch. That sounds fun.
Exactly. Yeah. Very good. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Dr. Robinson. He's president of Lansing Community College. This is Mary Stucco with Education Unfiltered. Thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you to Davenport University for sponsoring this podcast.